Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast episode. I'm pretty excited about this one because what I've started to do with this podcast is, quite frankly, I'm only releasing a podcast now when I have something really good to talk about. That's kind of my new decision. I think in the past I was experimenting with the frequency. Should I be doing a podcast every week? Should I be doing a podcast every 2 weeks? Once a month? And I came to the conclusion that for me right now, the best time to release one is when I have something really good to say. And I think that's most best, for the audience as well. You shouldn't have to kind of, force one out and force content out if there isn't something um, to teach on that's some kind of breakthrough or something. So I think it's going to be exciting for you, the listener, because when one does come out, it's going to be really good. And that's why I'm pumped up about this particular one. So in this podcast, what I'm going to teach about is some mistakes that I have made personally and in business, and some mistakes that my company has made, and essentially what these mistakes have been and how you can learn from our mistakes. I think one of the most valuable lessons ever has been making mistakes. Even in business recently, like we made a huge tax mistake by incorporating in a state that wasn't like the most tax friendly state for a business. And lesson learned, like it ended up being a significant tax mistake, and we've learned now like better tax strategies. And even though it was a huge mistake, probably one of the biggest mistakes we've ever made in business, quite frankly, um, what I'm optimistic about is that the mistake will have good that comes out of it. Okay, so even though we just didn't do things right, like we just didn't have the best tax structure for optimizing our tax situation. We were in a really expensive state. Business wise, we were just like not doing the best things personally to save on taxes. We were pretty much just doing the absolute worst thing you could do with your taxes, which is just like the default, just like not doing any strategy, right? And I think that for a while it was fine because it wasn't that noticeable. But then if you're making a lot and you're having to write a check for 50% of it, it's like it's too hard to ignore that kind of thing. I mean, seriously, biggest expense in our business has just been paying the tax bill, quite frankly. So anyway, what I like doing is it's not like I like making mistakes, but I really like learning from the mistakes we've made, and I like learning from other people's mistakes. If I'm able to listen to a YouTube or an audio and someone else is telling me the slip ups, mistakes that they've done and how they've learned from it, it's really helpful because you can avoid making the mistakes in the first place. It's kind of as if you have the luxury of someone else making the mistake for you and then learning from it as if it was your mistake. So what I'm going to teach in this podcast is I'm going to go over a handful of mistakes that I've made or we've made, and then essentially what we've done to overcome these mistakes. So, since we're on the topic of taxes, let's just talk a little bit more about this. One of the biggest mistakes we've done over the last 7 to 10 years is not invest properly in tax strategy, okay? Because I think we kind of took it for granted, the tax thing, right? Like when we first started business 13 years ago, we were making no money. So, like, our tax bracket was like 10%, right? And then when we started making a little bit more money, the tax bracket became like 20 something percent. And then when we were making more money, it was like 30 something percent. But then it's like next thing you know, especially if you live in an expensive state, like if you live in the state of California and you're at the top bracket federally, which is about 38%, and you're in the top bracket, for the state, let's just say of California, it's possible that if you live in an expensive state like California or New York, your tax liability could be over 50%. Over 50%. You could be at like 53% or something, like all in, which is just absolutely nuts. Paying more in taxes than you're taking home. I mean, it's like I could go on and on about the tax thing because I think it's kind of corrupt. I don't think that the government and the state should be taking half our money. I don't think they should be taking, in some instances, more money than we've even been taking home. I think there should be more freedom than that. I think taxes should be a lot lower. But what am I to do about that? And how am I supposed to control that? But one of the biggest lessons is not like strategizing properly. What we should have done years ago is we should have spent like 10, 20, $30,000 or whatever it cost to get with like the best tax strategists and to really get a better strategy together. In the past, it wasn't on the forefront of our mind, again, because the tax bill just wasn't that high. It was like it just wasn't a focus. But it's like once you're writing a check for taxes is really big and it's like half of your money that you've made in the year, it's too hard to ignore that type of bill. So again, big mistake was not properly. So what we've done this year is we've really been aggressive about the tax strategy stuff. We've first of all consulted a lot of CPAs. We have literally had phone calls with about 6 to 8 CPAs over the last 3 months. We've had deep Zoom webinar strategic phone calls with multiple CPAs at a deeper consulting level. We've gotten reports drawn up for our company and personally about how we can have better tax structure, better entity classification, better just plans, and it's something we're still exploring, and we're already seeing the benefit. I mean, even one strategy we implemented recently is going to save us a decent percentage on tax. That's just one strategy alone. So one of the biggest mistakes we made, I would say, was letting the business and our personal income getting very big without being proactive with the tax thing. And then it's like, whoops, paid a lot in taxes. Then after the fact, we're now spending the money to get the consulting and the structuring and the strategies and all of this stuff. But again, if we had just gotten really good tax advice about 3 or 4 years ago, we probably could have saved ourselves at least a couple $1 million at the very, very least in unnecessary tax money paid. So I would recommend this for your business. A lot of people don't actually focus on this for some reason in our industry. I think if it was more of a focus in our industry, it would be something we would have focused on more. But when was the last time you've ever gone to, let's say, an affiliate conference, and at the conference they're talking about like tax? It's just not like a focus in our industry. I think it should be. I think these real business things should become more of like a topic in our industry. It's like sometimes you go to a conference and the only thing people are talking about, is like running health insurance on Facebook and like VSLs, and there's like no talk about these real business topics, tax, where to get funding for your business, like managing P&Ls and expenses, and like how to appropriately hire and employ and HR, and like it's our industry is really, really immature, where there are a lot of companies in our industry, but very few are legitimately kind of structured and set up in a very businessy way. It's like there's so many companies are just kind of these mom and pop kind of like 2-man, 1-man shows where it's just like an affiliate, working out of their, what used to be their mom's basement or whatever, right? And it's like there's not that much structure in it. So that's what we're focusing on in our business, is making sure we're kind of ignoring all of the junk and all of the riffraff, and we're trying to set our eyes a little bit higher, and we're trying to look at our business like, listen, this is not, some kind of mom and pop thing. It's like we want to be operating like, like a tech company or, a really large ad agency or just something that's really professional and structured and has the right insight and counsel and things like that. So let's dive into some other mistakes. So on the tax thing, if you're paying a lot of taxes and you've just been kind of ignoring it or, trying to push it under the rug or think that you can't do anything about it, I would highly recommend that you start researching some um, some different accountants that can specifically help with strategy. Like interview them and don't even care too much about the filing. Every accountant for the most part can file. Um, Try to find accountants that specialize in the strategy, and it might not be cheap. I mean, we paid it might not be cheap at all. I think we paid $5,000 or $10,000 very quickly for 3 or 4 hours of strategy. Okay, but it was insightful. It pointed us in the right direction. Did it solve everything? No, it didn't actually solve everything, but it pointed us in the right direction. We're now saving some percentages on the taxes, which, by the way, will exceed the 5 or 10 grand paid for the strategy. But it's a journey, and I would recommend it for a lot of people in our industry to be on top of this sooner than later. You don't want to make a lot and then just find yourself because also if you're going to make a tax change, you're going to have to do it early enough in the year. So, for example, we have a good opportunity right now. It's April, 2024. We're kind of just finishing up the first quarter, so it's a really good time to actually make a tax adjustment. If you don't do anything about your tax situation and then you're consulting people in like November or the fall, you're going to miss the opportunity, um, in terms of what I understand, to be able to do a lot in this calendar year. The accountant might say, "Oh, you should have just like been here 8 months ago." We'll set up a plan to help you save more taxes in 2025. So if you're going to take advantage of the tax stuff, I would do it sooner than later for this calendar year. So let's move on to the next mistake. Was we had a mistake of trying to do everything ourselves, or at least trying to do a lot of the work ourselves or myself. So when we first started the company, it was just my brother and I, and we were pretty much working out of our mom's basement. Like no joke. I mean, um, maybe basement's the wrong word, but I was working out of my bedroom. At my parents' house. When my brother and I started in this industry, it was a long time ago. It was about 14 years ago. So I'm almost 33 years old. I started in internet marketing when I was 19. I used to go to these seminars and conferences and stuff, and they used to call me the kid. That was like my nickname, the kid. The internet, the kid. I was 19 years old. My brother's actually a few years younger, so I was 19 and my brother was like 17. And we started learning how to run ads on Google, Facebook, SEO, blogging. We started venturing in this industry. And at the time, I was literally working out of my bedroom in my parents' house that I grew up in. Like I was taking part-time classes at a community college in Connecticut, and when I wasn't taking college courses, I was on my computer trying to learn internet marketing and uh, making a business online. Now, here's the thing: we started off with almost no money. We literally had about $2,000 to our names, my brother and I, and we were trying to build an internet business, at the parents' house with $2,000. And as a result, we pretty much did all of the work ourselves. Like literally, I was up until 4 in the morning making a website for us. Tyler was up until midnight running Facebook ads every night. I was personally figuring out how to install WordPress plugins on like the blog so that the SEO would go better. Like we were doing 100% of all of the work ourselves, which I guess is understandable for that early of a stage, perhaps. Now, the mistake we made is as we grew, we should have stopped doing all of the work ourselves much sooner. So the issue is that we were about 5 years into business, starting to see some decent success. I mean, our story is that our first couple years was kind of a, I want to say failure, but a lot of kind of trial and error. So like our first year in internet marketing, we probably made about 10 or 20,000 bucks, but then we didn't really profit anything. Like any money that we made, we reinvested back into our education. So let's say we made $20,000. What we did was we then spent $20,000 on courses and conferences and ebooks. All the money we were making, we were investing for the most part back into our education. And then year two, we made a little bit more money. We made like $30,000 or $50,000. But again, we spent most of it either back into our education or into testing new things. I remember the second year, we made about $50,000 of profit, but then we spent like $10,000 running a direct mail campaign that failed. So we were doing that kind of stuff. We were kind of learning, we were testing new traffic sources, and we also started investing a lot more in our education. I would say a few years into our career, I mean, we started going to these conferences and masterminds for entrepreneurship and internet marketing that was costing us like $20,000. We would go to these high ticket conferences where we would learn a lot, but they were expensive. And sometimes it was like a lot of the money we were making was just going to these educational things. But here's the mistake we made. The mistake we made was that we finally started to see some success. I would say it was about 4 or 5 years in, we started to see some legitimate success. We started making at least multiple six figures personally as income. The business was making millions in terms of revenue. And it was successful enough for it to be pretty successful. I mean, I would say within 4 or 5 years into business, it got successful enough to where my wife was able to quit her job. She used to work as a nurse at in Connecticut at one of the hospitals there. So we became successful enough to where my wife was able to quit the job that she hated, and she became stay at home mom and full time at home, which was a goal and a dream we've always had. So we started to have some success, but the mistake that we made was the mistake is that we were still like doing everything ourselves. Like even though we were making, seven figures of revenues in the business, even though Tyler and I were taking home multiple six figures, the business was still just being run by like me and Tyler. Like we didn't even have an accounting person. We didn't have any media buyers. We didn't have any salespeople. We had like no team. We basically didn't really have a business, quote unquote. Because what is a business? A business is usually it's an organization. It's a business comprises of the products, the people, the services, and the biggest mistake we probably made outside of not looking into tax strategies sooner was just not building a team earlier. I mean, it was ridiculous. We were about 5 or 6 years into business, making a lot of money. What's funny in our industry too is the money making thing is like very relative. Um, because in other industries, it's you hear people talk about these figures. I really think that our industry of internet marketing is a great industry. I just want to say that just outright. It is a awesome industry. It's an awesome opportunity. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're kind of on the sidelines in our industry, or you're looking at the industry, or you're just not doing what you could do in our industry, you should take it more seriously because there is so much money to be made in our specific industry. Sometimes it's just hard to like wrap your head around like other industries. Like in our industry, it's almost like making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year is like small or nothing or so, right? It's like sometimes we need to like get our perspective right, because you look elsewhere at other types of industries or other types of businesses, and people are like, sometimes I think it's weird. Like sometimes you'll meet like this really arrogant person that's like making like 100 grand a year. Like they're so like cocky, and it's like, dude, like in our industry, there's people making over $100,000 a day, A day of profit. Like seriously, like it's just weird. It's weird when some people in other industries, they're just so cocky. It's like some of these people out there, like they're making 200 grand a year salary, and they walk around like they are like the richest person in the world. That they're just like they're just so full of it. And it's like, man, like, have you taken a look at internet marketing? Have you taken a look at any of these other industries that are very lucrative? You know what's another very, very lucrative industry that I would love to tap into? I'm just not sure how to right now. Is like the investing. There's so much money in financial markets and hedge funds, and like I have this feeling and this I just know there's like a lot of money there. I'm just not quite sure how to tap into it. But it's something that I'm eyeballing. It's just like, you can make billions, hundreds of millions there. But in terms of industries, internet marketing and tech and digital is really hot. Financial markets, investing, really hot. So you're definitely in one of the top places to grow a career. But doing everything ourselves was a mistake, because I remember about 5 to 6 years in, we were doing well, but then I still couldn't even take a vacation. Um, I couldn't even take the weekend off. Like 6 years into business, I was still working like 7 days a week. I was not even taking the weekends off. Literally for me, 6 years into business was me working full time Monday to Sunday. Literally, Saturday was just a full time workday for me. Sunday was like I was working at least like half the day or something, right? And then I remember it was kind of deeper into business. We were about 4, 6 years into business, and we tried to take a family vacation to Long Island, and literally, I was spending the whole vacation working, and I was spending the whole vacation personally running our payroll. Like we had no accountant at all or accounting team at all at that time, and I was spending my vacation personally running payroll. Um, for like 20 to 30 independent contractors and like service providers and stuff that we were just like working with in our business. And it was just a big mistake was just not building the team and a team faster, because I think at first it was kind of a fear thing, like, oh, the team is going to cost money. That was always my concern. The team is going to cost money. Like, it's going to cost me so much money to hire an accounting person and a salesperson and a junior accounting person and accountant's assistant, and like it's going to cost all this money. But I think what you need to change is your mindset around this, and here's why. What I've learned now is that it all needs to be viewed as an investment. Okay, if the investment has a return, it's probably better than not doing the investment. So, for example, you need to start viewing people as investments. Let's say that you want to get a media buyer on your team, or let's say you want to get an accounting person, or just name the position. You need to start viewing people as investment opportunities and like investments. But I'm not telling you to view people like numbers. I'm not telling you to not treat people like humans. I'm just telling you that in business, each person is an investment, is how it needs to be looked at. So let's say you're getting a team member, and let's say that team member is going to cost you on average $6,000 per month. What you need to ask yourself is, well, how long are you willing to test it to get a return, right? So some people have a different perspective on this. I was talking to a company lately that had no problem waiting for about a year to get a return on an employee. I feel like that's long. I just like, I would be a little bit, I don't know if I'm okay with that. Like, I don't know if I'm okay with hiring someone and not getting a return on that person until after their first year. I think it's a little steep. Um, Maybe I'll change my opinion about that down the line as we grow and expand into different positions. But for me, I personally would like to see a solid return on an employee or a team member at least after 6 months. Okay, so When I'm hiring right now, I'm saying to myself, okay, it's going to cost me this amount of money. Like, let's say the person wants $6,000 per month. So I'm viewing it that you have to view it more like an investment. Like, this is what it costs, this is the risk, this is the reward. So let's say someone wants to come on board, $6,000 per month. Let's just say. Let's say that your risk tolerance is about 6 months. You're really expecting that person to bring a return to the business within 6 months. So you can do the math. Your risk is about $36,000. It's $6,000 times the 6 months. So your risk is about 36 grand. And you're going to tolerate this test for up to 6 months, but you could always actually cut it off faster if necessary. So then what you need to start doing is you need to start viewing each and every team member like a return on investment. So let's say you hire a media buyer, you hire an accounting person, you hire a video editor, a creative person, copywriter, just you name the position. But if you hire someone and they cost $36,000, let's say in their first 6 months, you then do your best, if you can, to measure the outcome of the person. So let's just say you're 6 months in, you're like, yeah, I really feel like this is helping. You can try to put some kind of numeric measurement to it. You can say, okay, I hired this graphic designer person, I hired this creative team, and yes, they cost me $40,000 in the first 6 months, but I know as a fact I brought home like $120,000 of money that I probably wouldn't have earned otherwise. And then all of a sudden, do you see what I'm saying? You're suddenly viewing the hire and the person as an investment. And every single person on your team should be a good investment. You shouldn't have any bad investments in your company. And remember, people are investments. If someone is performing bad, it doesn't mean per se that they're a bad human. It means that maybe they're a bad investment. And at that point, you have a choice. Do you work on improving them, or do you just cut the loss and say, I guess I just chose the wrong person, the wrong investment? But if you start looking at it this way, it's much more systematic, and that's something we're working on in our business, is making our business more of like a blueprint. Like, we want our business to operate more sort of like a McDonald's or a chain, where it's a really, really fine-tuned machine where there's not really questioning, there's not really wondering of what to do in the business. Is just a system. It's like you find offers, you run the traffic, you fill the caps, you expand on the verticals that are working, hire as needed, hired where demand is, where you see growth, measure the hires, view them as investments. We're working on systematizing things so it's really well oiled. And if you start viewing hires as investments, you can start being a little bit more patient if the return isn't that high either on the investment too. Like, let's say you hire someone that it takes a little bit longer to get off the ground. Like, let's say you hire someone and you have to pay them like $100,000 in the first 8 months. But let's just say, it takes like 10 months for you to get $100,000, of net return back from that hire. You got to look at it a little bit differently. The way I'm looking at it too is that I don't even mind having a low ROI hire on the team if it helps. Does that make sense? Like, let's say you hire someone for $100,000 a year. Let's just imagine you hire someone for 100 grand a year. They're very, very helpful for the business. They take a huge amount of time off your hands, but let's just say hypothetically that they actually only earn back $120,000 a year for the business. Like, let's say you literally dish out 100 grand. The person's super helpful, takes a lot of time off your hands, makes things easier, but then only earns $120,000 back. So you're only profiting like 20 grand. You have to look at it more than just the profit. You have to look at it like, okay, like, there was nothing lost here. Paid 100, the person yielded about $120,000 in this example. There was like some small return, but does that mean you get rid of the person? You don't have to. I mean, there was a positive return. It wasn't as much as you wanted it to be, perhaps, but there was a positive return. But the way you need to look at it is there was a greater return of the help, the freeing up of the time, the freeing up of the resources, and maybe, just maybe, that freeing up of the time helps you earn a lot of extra money, um, elsewhere on different offers and different verticals or different things that you're working on. So let's go on to another mistake that we've made. Another big mistake that we've made a few times has been not scaling opportunities to the fullest potential. Um, it's just, I remember there's a few instances of this, and I'll share the instances. I mean, when Tyler and I had our first breakthrough in internet marketing, we were running a campaign for real estate on Facebook. And how the campaign was structured is the campaign was making we were collecting emails and building an email list. So there was money in the list, but I would say the campaign had like 10 or 20% profit margin on the front end. So we were profiting like 10%, small on the front end, and we were building an email list of leads. And then most of the profit was from emailing the list. Well, that was our first big breakthrough, and we had our first like largest day at that time. I remember it was like $16,000 day. Okay, like we had our biggest day in business, which was like it was like $16,000 of revenue, and the profit was probably 3 to 5 grand, which was a big deal for us at the time. But the biggest mistake we did was just not like take more advantage of these successful campaigns. Like it's like looking back on it, it's like why did we not just try to figure out how to at least like scale that campaign to like $30,000 a day or like $40,000 a day? We, for some reason, were like so caught up in the fact that we thought that the 16,000 was big that we didn't really push ourselves to do more or think outside the box more. So, one of the biggest additional mistakes we have made is just not scaling opportunities to the fullest potential. We kind of made the mistake too in the health insurance, like this ACA stuff. We just never really got like that involved in the ACA for some reason. We were just kind of always making excuses about it. We were busy running like a lot of other verticals that was not ACA. We just never really got into it, and we had an opportunity to get into it. I mean, it was like 2.5 years ago. 2 years ago, and we were on a phone call where we were basically hearing about ACA and the opportunity to promote it before anybody knew about it. Like literally, we knew about ACA a while ago. Like the first time I heard about it was even like 4 years ago. There was an affiliate that I knew that was promoting ACA, and they were like, I had no idea what. I had not even heard of this ACA before. Like the affiliate said they were promoting this ACA. I'm like, what is ACA? Never heard of this. But then for some reason we just kind of sat on the sidelines with that opportunity. We tested it a little bit, and we tried a few marketing angles for it that didn't really work at the time, and we just kind of shelved it. But then I do we do regret a little bit like not taking that opportunity seriously, because we would have been able to probably crush it early on when it was not competitive. It's gotten so competitive these days that it's actually been kind of challenging. But it's also been, ACA is a whole different. We're just kind of staying out of the ACA game right now, just in general too. There's a lot of things I don't like in terms of what I'm seeing in it right now. But the opportunity for us could have been hitting the ACA like 2 years ago, 2.5, 1 to 2 years ago, when like hardly anybody was doing it. We probably could have gotten a really high profit, really high return, and we could have been like a really strong company early on into the ACA game. So I think that, so again, there's kind of two mistakes that I'm laying out here. So the first mistake was not scaling something to its fullest. For example, like that original and some past campaigns. Like why didn't we just scale more? Why didn't we take it more advantage of these things, right? So in your business, think to yourself, try to take, especially if you know that there's cap. Let's say you're running something and there's extra cap. Like figure out how to like fill that cap. Like don't let it sit on the table. So we made mistakes in not scaling things to their fullest and then not seizing opportunities. Like if we heard that this ACA thing was going to be hot, 2.5 years ago, why didn't we just take it like super seriously and become like one of the front runners of ACA, 2.5 years ago? Um, so now another mistake too, and this is a little bit different than even business, but it is not investing properly. When Tyler and I first started to make some extra money and stuff, the we felt like we kind of had to invest. It's like, oh, like let's just pretend you made like 300 grand in a year, but you really only needed like 100 grand and you have 200 grand sitting around, right? We felt like there was always this pressure to invest, like we got to invest, and I don't know why we felt that pressure. Maybe because it's just almost like a like society kind of pressure. Like if you have money sitting around, you have to invest. And the problem was we were so young and new to like the whole investment thing that we didn't really know how to invest properly. So we made a lot of investment mistakes. So I'm not recommending to not invest. I'm just recommending that you invest wisely and that you don't feel pressured to invest. Like, let's say you have a big year and you earn like, 500 grand and you just have like 500 grand like sitting around. It's okay. What we're learning now is that it's okay for that money to be in cash, money markets, bonds. Like it's okay for it to be in like cash equivalent type of products as you figure out what the best investments are supposed to be. Like, for example, like even crypto, it's like, do you really want to be investing in crypto right now, halfway up a bull market? Probably not. It's not really the best entry point. Yet, so many people are probably going to get into crypto in the next year, 6 months, year and a half as the euphoric phase starts to play out. I mean, I don't know if you've been following the crypto market, but it's about halfway up a bull market. Like we bottomed in crypto about a year and a half ago. It's been going up for a year. You're going to start hearing about crypto, by the way, probably really heavily in the next 6 months when Bitcoin's at about $60,000 right now. It did put in a new all-time high, but you know how crypto's not being talked about that much right now, surprisingly, even though Bitcoin did break a new high. But trust me on this, within 6 months, 9 months from now, you're going to be hearing about crypto so much. Like when Bitcoin goes to 100K or like 150K, you're going to be going to these affiliate conferences and everyone's going to be starting to talk about crypto. You're going to meet people that are quitting affiliate marketing to get into crypto. This is how the cycles work, but you have to be smart about this stuff. Like, do you really want to be investing in crypto halfway up the bull market? So, probably not. It just doesn't make the risk reward probably isn't that strong. And if you do, the time horizon probably needs to be either really short to get out of it quickly or really long to weather another bear market. I mean, let's put it this way. If you invest in crypto right now, the market tops in 12 months and you don't sell that top properly, you would have had a little bit of a short-term investment, and then you're going to have to ride out the next 2-year bear market or something if the cycles keep playing out like this. So it's stuff like that. You want to be wise about it. Some mistakes that we made in investing is, number one, feeling the need to invest. There's nothing wrong with having a lot of cash on the sidelines. Remember Warren Buffett? Doesn't he keeps like 50% or 30% or some huge allocation of his holdings in cash. Why? So he can seize like good opportunities and good entry points. So don't feel like the pressure to invest your money. What I've also learned is one of the best investments has been our business. I mean, seriously, why would I invest in the stock market and earn 7% a year when I could invest in my own business and earn 500% a year or whatever it is? Like literally the return of capital in our business is at least 2 to 300% a year return on capital, at least. So what I've started to learn and what I've learned now is that one of my best investments is my own business. Like if I have $100,000 lying around that I don't know what to do with, like invest in your own business. I seriously, you should be investing in your own business. A lot of these other investments are boring. 10% a year in stocks, 5% a year in bonds, crypto, halfway up the cycle when you might just have to ride out another bear in 12 months. Gold and silver when they just had a huge year and are like a really, really popped up kind of high right now. It's like, do you really want to be buying? Like, you know, and what I like about investing in my own business is that I have control about it. It's almost like insider investing in a sense, right? Disclaimer. That's probably the wrong word for what I'm trying to describe here, but you know what I mean. It's like investing in something that you control. There's control over it. If you're investing in it's like making an investment in a company that you own and you have full control over it. It's like you have control over the investment. What I don't like about stock market investment, you invest in Tesla. What if Tesla does really well? What if it fails? What if we find out that Tesla just can't even produce a profit for the next like 6 years and those shares there's no control. At least if you're investing in your own business, you have control over what you have control over like the decisions. You have control over like how much work you're putting into your own business. It's like investing in a private equity that you are the control that you control. Like you can write the destiny of the investment that you're investing in, which I think is amazing. So don't underestimate the power of investing in your own business, or just what you're doing. Like, let's say you don't own a business, but let's just say you are let's say you're something in our industry. Like, let's say you're a really talented like salesperson in the industry, or you're a really talented copywriter, really talented media buyer, and you're actually making a lot of money in our industry. You still do own your own business in a sense. You probably do have an LLC. You probably do have some kind of entity. You're operating as an independent, agent and contractor. You should be investing in yourself and your own business. I mean, let's say you're a really talented salesperson. Like, why not hire out a team of salespeople to help you sell? Like, let's say you're one of the best salespeople in our industry. Do you know how good you could be if you had, let's say, a team of like 3 to 5 junior salespeople helping you on the sales? It's kind of like these hedge funds and brokerage firms. Like, let's say you reach out to one of these wealth management firms. They're usually run by like the head person, right? Like there's usually like the head guy, but then you notice they have a team, right? It's like the head guy, and then they have a team, and the team for like the smaller wealth management companies is usually a team of like 5 people, 6 people, but they have a team. And then the larger wealth management companies might have a team of like 40 people or something. Like they have a team. They're like these advisory groups, right? So think about that as ways to invest in your own business. And I also think it's important to identify present mistakes. This is one of the hardest things to do potentially, is to look at you and look at your business right now and try to figure out what mistakes you're currently making. A lot of mistakes that I've been talking about have been hindsight mistakes. It's, oh, we should have done that, wish we did that, and it's all been looking back. But one of the most beneficial things you could do is look at your present situation and try to take the blinders off. I know it's hard, but try to not have any blind spots and try to not have any blinders, and try to see where you're presently making a mistake presently, and then fix it in the present. If you're able to do that, it could be really powerful. Like when I was preparing this podcast, I wrote down on a piece of paper like a lot of the things I wanted to talk about, some of these mistakes, some of these different stories, and some of these different things. And I was trying to think, like, what mistakes are we making presently, like right now? And sometimes it's like maybe you don't want to admit these mistakes, but one of the mistakes that I believe our company is making right now that we should probably deal with and, take advantage of, troubleshoot, etc., is I think one of the biggest mistakes we're making right now is we're not doing enough sales and we're not doing enough business development in new areas of the market, because we're trying to tap into new verticals. We're trying to tap into new offers, new verticals, and new stuff. And the reality is that the failure rate has been really, really high. Like I don't think it's just us, but like let's just say you're trying to get into something new. Like let's just say hypothetically you're trying to get into, personal loans or just solar, whatever. Like if it's something brand new that you've never done much before, the failure rate could be so high. Like, let's say you're trying to tap into solar, you might literally have to test like 20 solar offers before you find one that works. And the failure rate is real, it has been real, and I think a mistake that we're making right now in our business is we're not powering through the numbers like fast enough for the failures to happen fast enough to get to where we want to go fast enough. So what I'm thinking what we need to be doing in our business is we need to be thinking about the fact that okay, let's say we're trying to tap into some new stuff, home services, solar personal loan. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals here, and let's just say that we have a feeling that for every like 15 offers that we test in one of these verticals that there's going to be perhaps very few winners. What that means is we need to be running these numbers. Like we need salespeople out there that are landing, like 20 offers a week so that we can find like the one offer that's good. Like it's just our sales process has been too slow. It's been too slow. Like even though our sales team has been really good and really effective, it's not fast enough for the hyper kind of fast growth that we're looking for. So what I would do differently and what I'm going to start thinking of myself now is, well, what can we do to speed this up? And it would be easier if the success rate was higher. Like if you were testing 20 offers and then out of the 20 offers there was just like 15 winners, or like the win rate was really, really high, I would say that it would be a little bit of a different story. But since the failure rate on new things has actually been pretty high and the success rate has been there, let's just be clear, the success rate has been there, but it's been small. It's been like less than 5% of the new things we've tested have like gotten off the ground. And I don't think that's abnormal for our industry. That's probably why a lot of businesses have like failed in our industry, is because the failure rate has usually been pretty high. What you need to do is you need to have you need to be kind of bullish, and you need to be able to power through the numbers to allow those ratios to play out a little bit more. Like again, if only one offer succeeds out of 20, let's just say worst case scenario, you need to be landing 20 offers a week for your business to find one offer every week that's a winner. And then if you're finding one offer every week that's a winner, you're finding 4 great winning offers a month, which equals about 50 great offers a year. And then 50 great offers a year, let's just say you have 50 great offers, each offer does $5,000 a day on average. Conservatively, that's $250,000 a day. That's $250,000 a day of new revenue with 50 proven winning scaling offers. And I know it's possible. We just have to like bulldoze through the numbers faster. We can't just be like landing, 6 or 8 offers or clients a month expecting that kind of speed and growth to happen in terms of that speed. So it's something that I'm going to be putting together a plan with our team of like how could we crunch and just blast through, like how can we be more efficient, how can we test different verticals. And I'm also a big fan of really doubling down on a vertical. Like let's just say something totally hypothetical, like homeowners insurance. Let's just say you're promoting homeowners insurance and you start to see some success. I'm a huge proponent of really doubling down where you're seeing success. That's always been a huge strategy for us, is just on anything. So let's say home insurance, you're starting to see some traction. You should then just go nuts, and like you should try to get home insurance to like 100 grand a day. You want to double down on like where success is. So it's almost a little bit of like We have a twofold approach. It's kind of like a shotgun approach to where the shotgun scatters the bullets, right? So it's like there's a shotgun approach of just like testing a lot of stuff, bulldozing through the numbers. But then once we've become successful at particular vertical, we've then like to really double down on that vertical and do a little more sniper approach. Once the success is there, really build up that vertical. So guys, I hope that this was helpful. Um, reach out on Skype. I've pitched this a few times in past podcasts, but we have a pretty good partnership program. We've actually had about three really, really high level referrals come out of it. So basically, we have a program where if you are an offer owner, like you're an advertiser, you're an offer owner, or you know someone, we're really only looking for like direct clients with this. But if you have a really good vertical or something different, something new that you think could be hot for us to promote, we can set up a kind of referral agreement to where if you introduce us to the company, we've usually been paying a decent percentage for a few years of the just straight off the revenue too, like so it's easy to track. And the last time we threw out a pitch for this was a couple weeks ago, but we got about three really strong bites, and I'm super excited about this because like three of the newest offers we're testing actually directly came from these referrals. I'm not going to name the verticals, but they're they're different. Like I'm excited about these things because they're different. I mean, all three of the opportunities are opportunities that were not on my mind, which I'm excited about. One vertical never crossed my mind to promote. Um, the other vertical was kind of a vertical we know that's been out there that we just haven't done much in, and then the other vertical is a vertical that we used to do really well in like 8 years ago that would be like a revisiting of that vertical, which could be really interesting. So I'm excited about it. You just have to try new things. I mean, in order to get new results, you might have to try new things. It's just part of the game. And hey, you know, maybe we test this three stuff and maybe it all fails, but maybe one of it works. It's all part of the game. If you're not willing to run the numbers, you're just not going to see the success you're supposed to see in this industry. Like you have to be okay with testing 20 things and having one or two things work out if that's the case. Like you have to be okay with that. And I think it's important to have an expectation of the failure rate potentially being that bad. You're going to be really disappointed if you have false expectations. If you go into this industry and you're like, yeah, I'm going to test like these five offers and I'm like fully expecting these to be successful. I mean, you're going to be really disappointed if like all five fail. If that's your expectations. What I've learned lately, not only in business but in life, is expectations are really, really important. And what I recommend is that you have realistic, conservative, at least conservative expectations. Again, if you're testing like 3 to 5 offers in your business and you're somehow convinced that like all these things are going to work, you're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment potentially and discouragement. You should just set your expectations like a lot more conservatively. Again, my expectations, I expect about 1 out of 20 offers to succeed. Like that's my realistic, conservative expectations right now, whatever you want to call it. I would be making myself really emotionally like weird if I actually expected like 1 out of every 3 offers to take off. It's just I would be like constantly frustrated, constantly disappointed that it never happened. So you should have realistic expectations, and then you gotta think outside the box. Like if that's a reality that for every 20 offers you test, you only get one successful one, you're gonna have to start figuring out how to test a lot. Like again, you might have to be testing 20 offers a week to find one a week that wins. And if that's scary to you, and then I don't know, maybe you might you might not have like a multiple 9-figure business like in our industry, and that's okay. But it's like the reality is sometimes business has not been easy. And sometimes the easy route has not always been the most lucrative route. What I've learned in business is sometimes you have to take the challenge. Sometimes you have to do what other people are not willing. There's not that many companies that are willing to actually get a sales team, test 20 or 30 offers a week to find those gems, right? And it's like you just sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. So guys, I hope this encourages you. I hope it kind of sets the expectations a little bit more like realistically. And a lot of people also benefit from partnering with our company. Like let's say you're a media buyer with our company. Being a media buyer with our company is one of the best positions because you just get to run the media, and you don't need to worry about landing like the 20 or 30 offers a week or whatever it is. I mean, that's what we've been doing and supplying as the company. So what is good? We're going to have some more media buyer openings probably in the next, I would hope, 1 or 2 months, because as some of these new offers end up succeeding, which I do expect them to, it's not going to be all of them, of course, but it's going to be a fraction of them. We're going to have some demand for media buyer positions. So we're talking about internal media buyer, to where you're actually part of our company and you get to buy the media. You don't have to spend a dime. I mean, you're buying media on our credit cards and stuff. We offer a really lucrative cut. Our top media buyer last year earned over $1 million. I really, yeah, over $1 million. And like our second best media buyer, I think earned like 600 grand. I mean, these are big numbers, guys, for a, position, whatever you want to call it. I don't even a job position, but guys, it's a great opportunity. Opportunity is really the best word for it. So here's what I recommend. I recommend that if you're listening to this and you're of the media buying camp and you're just a really strong media buyer, you know what you're doing, I would get on that wait list for media buying slots. Even though we might not be hiring for, let's say, a month or two from now, what I would do is I would reach out to myself or my brother on email or Skype, and I would just reach out and just get your name known. At least get on the list and the wait list, because if you're on our radar screen early and you're very talented media buyer and you're good at making creatives and angles and you really know what you're doing, we may even consider hiring quicker than 2 months. We always value a really, really strong media buyer, especially if it's a good asset to the company and lucrative for both parties. So I recommend reaching out if you're interested in media buying position, and you can get a hold of me on Skype. My Skype name is PeterDay3640. Just add me on Skype. It's PeterDay3640. And yeah, just reach out on Skype. Let me know you're interested in media buying. I want to be very clear, though, you can't be kind of newbie at media buying. There's just like zero chance you would be hired if you're a newbie media buyer. We really only hire, excellent. So you have to be, good. You have to be good. You have to know you're good. We don't want any, kind of newbie media buyers. So I just want to be really clear on that. It's if you know that you're kind of new to media buying, you're not that good yet. Personally, I would just wait and reach out in like a year when you're better, for a better shot. But if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I am a good media buyer. I'm confident in my abilities. I've seen success before. I just want to partner with a good team and a good company. I want to make a lot of money, and I don't want to have to go land like 30 offers a month. Like I don't even know how to do that. I don't have the right. If that's you, reach out. I think there could be a good opportunity to still make a lot of money, but to tap into that infrastructure. Again, guys, we're a pretty large company now. We're 13 years into the space. We have a lot of time, a lot of experience behind our belt. It could be a good partnership. So reach out if you're interested in media buying position, and we will talk soon. All right, this is Peter, and talking a bit.